Morning, afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're coming from. Thank you for joining us today in today's webinar on Web and DNS security. Today is pretty exciting. It is an introduction webinar into DNS security, but the main purpose of today is we have a special announcement that we'd like to make. So with anyone who's joining late, feel free to just continue on. This will be recorded, so you will be able to see anything once you get your hands on the recording after the session. You'll be able to go through all the content again. If you do have any questions, the Q&A and the chat is open. Feel free to add them in. We will be covering Q&A toward the end, but we've got a pretty full day today. So my name is Elliot. The control's not working, mate. Let me try that again. My name is Elliot. I am one of the solutions engineer security consultants here at Pax8. So today we're going to be going through and covering a little bit of an overview of web and DNS security and how that sort of fits into the space. But I'd like to firstly do a special announcement. Kyle, do you mind clicking forward because the control's not working for me?
Yeah, no problem. We're just having a little, for some reason this is not working properly. Oops, sorry if I just gave it away. Hold on one sec here. We're going to share, just share the whole screen. There we go. And we'll give control to Elliot. Let's try now. Can you hit buttons? Can things happen?
No, it doesn't, unfortunately. Do you just want to go ahead, move forward for me?
Sure. Give me 1 second here. There's just something going funky here. We need to present it by a speaker. There we go. There we go. All right.
Next
so
slide.
yeah, I'll click forward to. There's Elliot.
Thank you. So today we're really happy to announce that DNSFilter is joining us on our catalog as part of the Pax8 family. They will be launching very soon, and today is actually a private special preview for your. We've had a number of requests for a DNS filtering solution or DNS security solution. So we're pretty excited that DNS is one of the premier tools on the market that a lot of partners have been asking about, in effect. We will be the first distributor in region across ANZ to be able to resell DNSFilter to our MSP partners like yourself. So we're very excited to have them on board. So I'm joined here today, next slide, by Kyle and Dom Wells from the DNSFilter team. We're lucky enough that Kyle's one of the key sales engineers over there, so he'll be presenting and give us a bit of an overview into the product, a bit of a demo for you all. And Dom Wells is actually a former Pax8er, so he's our inside man, he's our spy in the organisation, but he knows the Pax8 ecosystem inside out, so he's very well suited to support us moving forward. Next slide, please, Kyle. So the agenda for today, there's a bit of content, but we'll first cover off a little bit around web security and how that fits in the relevant frameworks that we as partners we go through today, and some of you may be using already. We'll cover off a bit of an overview on who are DNSFilter, where they've come from, the value props that they offer as part of that potential solution, and we'll give you a little bit of a demo to show you how easy it is to use, manage, and configure. Then toward the end of it, we'll cover a little bit of pricing and what will be available, and then potential next steps if you choose to partner with us and work with us and procure DNSFilter through Pax8. Any Q&A, as I mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to ask along the way. The Q&A tab is open, and we will try to get to as many of those questions at the end as possible. Next slide, please. So I first thought I'd start by covering a little bit of frameworks and where potentially a web security or DNS security solution fits in. So many of you of Australian partners that are on the call obviously familiar with things like the ASD or the ACSC Essential 8. So realistically, when it comes to web security, there's nothing in here that really sort of irons out. That is actually a part of the sort of wider mitigation strategy that the ACSC recommend. However, when you look into things like user application hardening, next slide, please, Kyle. User application hardening. There are some components in there when you look at the maturity levels. If you want to click next, that sort of focus in on sort of web browser type activity. A few of the things is like processing Java information from the internet, making sure Explorer 11 doesn't process content from the internet. And one I've highlighted there is, specifically web advertisements on the internet. So the issue with that is that it's all under maturity level 1, and there are some situations where those particular categories can't be met. So you won't be able to even go past maturity level 1 to 2 and 3 because you may, for whatever reason, not be able to meet those standards. So that's where something like a DNS security solution comes in place, where with ad blockers and stuff that is included. That from a defensibility point of view, that may be your one thing that you can add in to basically cover that component without actually having to meet that standard. So what I mean by that is if you can't comply with that particular item in the ML1, from a defensibility point of view, you can, as long as you can document it and make a case for we can't go through and service that particular item, but this is what we've done in its place. We've added additional ad blockers, we've done additional DNS security. That will be your way around it for compliance, legal reasons, even things like cybersecurity insurance. So that's one way you can add it in. Next slide, please, Cole. When you look at the broader mitigation strategy from the ACSC, and this is quite small, so I don't intend to, obviously for you to read it all, but when we focus in on that one particular item, web content filtering is a part of the 37 items in the mitigation strategy, and that is effectively where DNSFilter sit in, right? And then you can cover that, and that works side by side with, as a layered approach with, everything else in that security stack. If you are focused on things like CIS controls, particularly version 8, control 9 specifically identifies things like web browser protection. And again, that's your DNS or web security. And that they generally combine that with email security. So, some of the vendors that you might be procuring through Pax8 at the moment, like Avanan, Proofpoint, Ironscales, it ties in really well with that. And it's good as a layered approach. So
one addition to that, Elliot, is that we also fulfill a control 8, which is DNSFilter logging and audit management. And so we do fulfill another piece of that, and that's just a section of control 8. So just want to chime in there.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Kyle. If you do have any questions on any of the controls and things like that, feel free to reach out. But I'll let Kyle take you through a bit of an overview and a demo, and then we'll get back into the pricing toward the end of it.
Great. Thanks, Elliot. Teed me up for a fun little discussion here. So thanks again, everybody, for taking the time today. Really excited to be here and to be partnering with Pax8. The market opportunity is huge, and I hope that every one of you, can see the benefit here for your customers as well. So who is DNSFilter? Well, it's all in the name, right? It is what we do. So we are a cloud-based AI-powered recursive DNS security solution. So we protect your network edge by scanning DNS queries that hit our infrastructure. And if your users are requesting a site that violates the policy that you set forth, the user is blocked from going to that resource. It's all very simple. As a company, we've been around since 2015. We are a team of over 140 cybersecurity and network experts delivering best-in-breed solution for your protective DNS. I myself been in the industry about 20 years, with about 12 years specifically in the DNS area. And kind of a funny story is, in another time of my career, I the product manager for a very similar product like this, and we were sunsetting it. And a young guy named Ken, who was running an MSP down in South Carolina, was starting a little company called DNSFilter, and I had 300 paying customers for the service I was shutting off. And so I met our co-founder then, kind of kept in touch over the years, and I've been on the team now for about a year and a half. And you know, this has been probably the most exciting part of my career, despite the fact that we're, you know, ostensibly playing with a 40-year-old protocol that you know, just makes the internet work. So you know, that's kind of my story, what brought us here today, and who we are as a company. But you know, let's get down to some real hard facts here. DNS is inherently vulnerable. 88% of organizations were hit with at least one DNS-based attack in the last year. That could be anything. That's that phishing email that looked like it may have been an Amazon gift card, you know, contest or something. It could have been a malware attack, cyber, you know, attack of that nature. So, you know, a lot of this stuff is happening at the DNS layer. So if we can protect the DNS layer, we're doing well. You know, and the implications of these sort of attacks are far-reaching. $9.4 million is the average cost of a data breach here in the United States. 60% of businesses are now increasing their product prices to offset the cost of these breaches, which, you know, has far-reaching implications in all manner of the economy. So, you know, if we can enact some very effective protection at the edge, you know, we're curbing this disturbing trend. So the idea here is that DNS is everywhere. It should be secured everywhere. With DNSFilter, you can block zero-day domain threats leveraging our AI engine, which underpins our product. You know, we are aware of over 750 million domains. That's fully qualified domain names. And we have a machine learning engine that constantly scans the internet looking for changes in you know, the categorization of domains, but also, you know, all of the other metadata that kind of goes along with that would indicate, you know, a threat, such as botnets, you know, malware, phishing, etc. As with any traditional DNS filtering solution, you can also block inappropriate and objectionable content with over 37 simplified content categories. When you make a change in the platform to a policy, those are applied in seconds. And, you know, as a platform, we see over 1.5 trillion queries a month. You know, that's 50 million queries a day, every day. So that gives us a lot of information about how the internet works. And with that data, we use it for good. So we take that data, and one of the ways that we slice and dice that is one-click application blocking for over 80 applications known to pose security risks. You know, blocking just the domain for a specific service is not usually enough to stop it in its tracks. Got to know a little more about it, and we do. So we give you the option to do that through our AppAware feature. And of course, underpinning this entire thing is a lightning-fast Anycast network. That means that our network is everywhere that your users are. With over 77 data centers globally. When somebody makes a request to the DNSFilter network, they are routed to the data center that is logically closest to them, which means that the DNS resolution speed is always fast and always reliable. As I just mentioned, you know, the Anycast network is, you know, the underpinning of this. It's consistently rated one of the fastest DNS resolvers in the world. If you wanted to check that out, you can go over to dnsperf.com and select from the drop-down box public DNS resolvers. You'll see that you know, in all regions we're either the fastest or second fastest. And again, the AI-powered content filtering and threat detection is constantly, you know, going through that list of domains and updating the back end. This means less maintenance for the operator of this product. You just tell us what kind of threats you want to stay out of, and we'll take care of that. Our false positive rate's about 0.85%. So you can rest assured that, you know, we're out here with a high degree of confidence, making sure that the content that your users and customers are accessing is safe. So in addition to the 37 content categories I just talked about, there's 8 different threat categories. And then there's allow and block lists, which you can use to supersede those category blocks in situations where you have edge cases. And everything you do in the UI happens in seconds. Now, for the MSPs here in the room, here's some great news. You can white label this product. You can make it your own, make it look like you are the smartest guy in the room here with the product that is going to make everyone's lives easier. And that's all done through a multi-tenant dashboard. So you manage all of your customers in a single pane of glass. You can use global policies, universal allow and block lists to make setting up new customers that much easier. If you have a baseline policy set up for everybody, when you create a new organization, it inherits those, so you can roll this out quickly. And of course, with all the DNS queries that we see, we're able to provide very comprehensive reporting, especially when we are utilizing the roaming client, which provides the highest degree of granularity in a very lightweight endpoint agent. And so all the reporting can be done either at an MSP or a suborg or tenant reporting level. It can also be co-managed with your customers. So if you have a technically savvy customer that wants to get their hands dirty in the DNS stuff, you can let them. And then with all that as well, we have comprehensive query logging, which can also be exported to a SIM. So that's another key feature that we have here. And that feature will be live with Pax8 very shortly. Again, flexible deployment. This could be as easy as just putting some IP addresses in a router and letting us know what the external IP address of that network is. We do run a closed resolver, which means that not just anybody can plug in our IP addresses and get some world-class DNS. We do this to protect our users from the threats of things like DDoS attacks. When you run a closed resolver, you just reject queries that you don't recognize. So that puts us at a great advantage over some of the public resolvers that are out there. And as I mentioned, there's a roaming client that runs on Windows, Mac, as well as Chromebook. So all of those can be installed through an RMM, which makes it really easy. And all of the data that comes back to us is encoded in eDNS client subnet packets, which let us know what the logged in username is. So that comes in really handy for your customers that may be using Active Directory, where you can synchronize groups and organizational units to align with the product. When we go into the demo, I'll show you a little more about that. And then also we have a relay, which can be used in legacy situations where you may have on-premise AD, but you also need to do split horizon DNS resolution. That provides a way to still provide your users with a high degree of performant and safe DNS while understanding the internal LAN subnets and IP addresses that are making the requests. I talked a lot about features, but really what it comes down to is what problems are we solving? And principal among these, first would be protection for the hybrid workforce. It's been a crazy few years. A lot of people who never worked from home now work from home all the time. And so as such, a lot of corporate networks have had to change to accommodate this. And one of the great challenges is, how do you do this in a world where, you got VPNs, you got people working from home, you got people working in coffee shops, all sorts of things like that. The roaming client is the way that we achieve protection regardless of where the user works or, wants to be protected. So this deployment method also gives you the highest level of granularity in the ability to enforce policies, meaning individual users can have individual policies if that is desired, but all the reporting can also be done on a per user basis as well, which is really good for pinpointing things that may be going on within the deployment. Also, your customers may have Wi-Fi hotspots. I think about coffee shops. I think about the car dealership, places where people, may post up and do a little work while they wait for something or they enjoy a cup of coffee. Protecting Wi-Fi is certainly something that we take seriously here at DNSFilter, especially given our humble beginnings where, we had a wireless ISP here in the United States. And, protecting users, means that, you're protecting everybody from, those sort of threats happening on that network. So that way, everybody has a good experience. And as Elliot and Dom kind of touched on earlier, compliance is a big thing. And especially with the advent of everything that Elliot explained around your specific region's compliance needs. You'll find those compliance needs are pretty standard globally. So we take a lot of pride in the fact that we're able to knock out a lot of those compliance issues right out of the gate. And for you, the partner, the potential partner here, again, multi-tenant dashboard is your single pane of glass into your full deployment. And we'll take a look at that UI here in a moment. You can deploy the roaming client at scale very easily through any number of RMM tools. And then again, touching back on that co-management concept, that's something that we can offer here. So again, if you have users who are keen to look at reporting or even modify some policies, there's different account levels that you can assign to your customers to administer their deployment. And just like that, we're into a demo. So I'm going to switch my screen real quick, and bear with me because I am kind of a noob when it comes to Teams. Great. Let me find where my web browser went and make sure I got the right screen. Not going to update the driver. Ask me every time. Okay. So now we have, this is a white labeled version of our DNSFilter dashboard. Obviously, we're not called Gotham IT experts, but we've white labeled this dashboard with that branding as a example of the white labeling. Now, when you log into the portal, you get a good 10,000 foot view of everything going on inside the deployment. You get a good idea of how many requests are happening. More importantly, how many requests were blocked and how many threats were identified, how many users, roaming clients, all the things that make up a deployment are kind of visualized here. So as I mentioned in the presentation, having global policies at the top level of your MSP dashboard, and by the way, what defines that is here you have all of these would be your customers under here, and then your own NFR account sits right here at the top. And then the MSP dashboard itself is where all of the sort of overarching components like global policies, scheduled reports, universal lists all live. So these are all things that can be configured to make your life easier as a reseller of DNSFilter. So here is a global policy. We've given it a name. These are the 37 content categories I was mentioning earlier. It's just as easy as going in here and saying, I don't want people looking at streaming media. And that just lit up saved. That is now pushed to our entire service edge. So anywhere anybody's accessing this policy, that change has now been enabled. And disabling it is just as quick, just like that. If ever you run across a domain that you're not sure how it's categorized, you can always plug it in here into the domain report. Obviously, we know reddit.com is going to come back as a message board and forum and news and media. But if that was ever in question, you could always look it up here. This is also the mechanism that we use as a feedback loop to our data science team. So if there's something that's miscategorized or you feel is actually a threat, etc., all the feedback mechanisms are right here, so you can fire up a response to us about that. For your educational customers, we do offer safe search. So this enforces safe search as well as blocking any other search engines that don't support safe search. So you do have the option to do that. And then you can also enforce YouTube restricted mode. All right, now here's where we start to really pull away from everything you thought you knew about content filtering DNS, because now we have this concept of threat filtering as well. So now something that was ostensibly used to keep people out of content that was objectionable, well, now we're keeping people safe. So we have 8 threat categories that are listed out here. So botnets, so stopping command and control hosts, crypto mining, stopping people from mining Shiba coin when they should not be mining anything. Malware keeps people out of those sort of like drop servers, compromised websites that are trying to enact some dirty, sinful business on your computer. Phishing and deception, obviously those emails come in, they look legit, but they're not. If you were to click that link with this enabled, it would just stop the user right in their tracks and they wouldn't be able to give up their credentials or much, much worse. Proxy and filter avoidance. Think of your commercially available VPN services. This is what keeps people out of doing things with those to get around the protections that we offer here. Now, I specifically skipped over new domains and very new domains because those are probably the most important ones on this page, despite the pervasiveness of some of these other threats. The reason why is that through domain generation algorithms and other things that the bad actors do on the internet, by and large, new domains registered in the last 30 days are typically used for enacting these sort of threats. So by having new domains and very new domains activated, you've essentially stopped zero-day threats in their tracks. The exception here is like maybe your customer's a web development shop, or is actually doing legitimate things with brand new domains. The great news here is that we have an allow list that you can use to whitelist a domain, but also as we learn the true nature of a domain, our categorization is constantly being updated. So requests for a domain that we haven't seen before are prioritized in the AI engine, so they are actually recategorized quicker. So translation sites is here. Just it's a random vestige of the educational aspect of this product. The idea here is that people trying to access some objectionable content may try and use a translation site to get a foreign language version of the same content. So you can block that as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we see over 1.5 billion DNS requests, or trillion, sorry, a month. So 1.5 trillion DNS requests means we see everything about everything everywhere. So applications that you think would just be like, hey, Dropbox, I don't want people accessing Dropbox. I'm going to block Dropbox.com. Fact of the matter is, it's not going to stop the agent for Dropbox from working, because Dropbox doesn't just use their marketing domain for everything. They've got hundreds of other domains that they use to deliver their service. And so because we've seen all of the DNS requests associated with it, and have discerned with a high degree of confidence the nature of those domains, we're able to categorize and curate these into application blocks as well. So the 83 applications that we have listed here do include some of the application ecosystems like Apple and Microsoft. Reason for that would be a shadow IT situation where maybe a company only uses Microsoft Office 365, and they don't want people using iCloud or any part of the Amazon ecosystem. These can all be turned off. So again, very effective blocking in a different sort of way than what some of the others in the field are doing. All right, so we have an allow list and a block list. These supersede any of the category or application blocks that were previously mentioned here. This is crucial. So if you do have something that you need to whitelist over and above the category that may be blocked, this will take priority over those categories. And same with the block list. Now, what's unique about our block list as well is that you can block an entire top level domain. DNS is read in reverse. It starts at the / and then it works its way back. So when you want to block a top level domain like RU or XXX, all you have to do here is add that without the dot, and we will block that entire top level domain. Lastly, we've seen over 800 million domains, and we keep all of that in our sites. But in the unlikely event that we've come across a site that we haven't seen before, there's a couple different ways that we can handle that. We could do nothing. So that'd be turning off interstitial, that'd be turning off block uncategorized sites, and uncategorized sites would just resolve. Problem is, if we haven't categorized it before, we haven't categorized it. So we don't know if it's safe or if it's not. Great news here is that you can pause a user in real time using our interstitial page feature. Now, what this does is instead of just flat out blocking the thing, like clicking this button here on categorized and unknown sites, just block it. And that'd be it. Be like, site's blocked. We haven't seen it before. Like, that's it. the idea of using the interstitial page means that we pause the user in real time and say, hey, now we haven't seen this page before. We're going to go out, we're going to run our whole battery of tests. It takes about 45 seconds. After about 45 seconds, the page either loads properly because it didn't violate any part of the policy, or it gets blocked because it got identified as a threat or it violated one of the content categories. So a very unique feature from DNSFilter that you're not going to find anywhere else. Here at the global level as well, we have this feature called universal lists. This is the allow and block list, but taken to another higher, a higher tier in the hierarchy of what resolves and what doesn't. So if for all of your customers, you wanted to allow or block a specific domain, you can do that here with universal lists. Block pages can be customized to your branding and can be distributed at a global level. So if you wanted the same block page for all your customers, you can do that here by creating a global block page. By filling out the notice email field, it creates a form on the block page itself, which then says, here, we'll just do this real quick so we see it. So if we do this and preview, when your user stumbles upon a site they shouldn't have, it'll explain this domain is blocked by your organization name due to, and it'll say the reason here. It'll say like, adult content or malware, etc. But there's a link here. So your users can actually go and fill this out and say, hey, I don't think this should have been blocked. That sends it to that notice email, which can also be a ticketing system if that's how you want to roll. And that way you have a good feedback loop of what's going on within your deployment. Now, I'll touch on reporting here because the reporting that you're going to see here is the same as it is with the customer. So as an MSP, you get the kind of view of everything going on. So you see your most active sub-organizations listed out here. You can drill in and see exactly what's going on, which user hit which block page, what domain. IMR Worldwide is a tracker. It looks like this specific time, the user on Serena's Pixel 3 stumbled upon this site and shouldn't have, it was blocked. Again, we have very comprehensive reporting at all levels, but even from the top level, you're able to drill down and see that. Now, one of the things about selling this and reselling this is that there has to be some value for your customer to really appreciate what you're doing for them, because by and large, this product just kind of runs in the background and protects them silently. Now, you may have some customers that come to you and be like, well, this is all well and good, but what am I paying you X amount of dollars for a month? This gives you the option to send a report on a regular basis. So here, if we take one of the organizations and we can actually configure a report to show up at a certain time with a certain amount of information about the content and threats that have been blocked by the solution. So that way, while this thing does run silently in the background, you can have a good sense, and your customer has a good sense of the value that they're getting from the product. So they get a report that looks a little something like this. It says, hey, we blocked 115 malware requests and 65 phishing and deception. And also it touches on category contents, the content categories as well. At the MSP level as well, you're able to white label, as I mentioned, so you can go through here, you can customize everything to make it look, consistent with your own branding. And then, you're able to then, have that branding here in the UX. So with that, we have gotten into a good place where we can actually show you how this is deployed. So we've talked a bit about global policies, as you can see here in this column. If it's lit up green, that's one that was inherited from the MSP. But you can also customize and have as many policies as you like. Your customer could literally have a policy for every user if they wanted to configure it that way. there's no two ways to set this up. It's very dynamic and able to meet the needs of just about any use case. So we've been through policies. We know that we have policies here. At the customer level, the customer can determine whether or not they want policies to apply at a certain time. So they can schedule, say, work from home devices, during business hours don't have access to social media or sports, but after hours, you can open it up, have a different policy. As I mentioned earlier, block pages definitely are something that can be inherited from the MSP, but they can also be customized at the customer level as well. So if they want to see a different logo or even an animated GIF, I mean, if they're being funny, sure, we can do that. Now, we've talked about policies. Now, how do we get this in the hands of the people? As I mentioned during my presentation, we have 3 different deployment methods. One is a network level deployment. Again, that's a closed resolver, so we need to know the IP address of the machine that's making a request, or the network for that matter. Then the roaming client doesn't require an IP address because it actually uses a private key. So if we go in here and actually go to the install tab for the roaming client, you'll see that a key is generated here. And it's a matter of then taking the package for your respective OS. So, 90% of our users are Windows, about 10% Mac, with that like 1% of Chromebook. But Chromebook kind of like lives in its own education world. We have a lot of education customers that use Chromebook as well. But by and large, you're going to find that it's Windows that folks are using. So it's as easy as grabbing the MSI from here, and then we have a number of different deployment scripts that can be used in concert with your RMM or through PowerShell, GPO, etc. So however it works well for you all to install this thing, you're just putting this into a script, letting us know the private key, and then as soon as that is deployed, it starts sending traffic to us. And then that's all managed here in the dashboard. As you can see, this customer only has 2 roaming clients deployed. And one other thing, a question that comes up is, well, if you're changing the local IP address of DNS on the machine, what happens if I try and access an internal DNS server? And thankfully, we've thought of this. We have an ability here to define any local domains that our roaming clients should be aware of, as well as any local resolvers that resolve those names. So that way, if you do have internal DNS that exists either through a domain controller or another internal DNS solution, you have the ability to resolve those, which is always good. As I mentioned earlier as well, Active Directory and Azure Active Directory can integrate nicely with the product as well. We have a synchronization tool that you can download and install onto a domain joined machine that is part of that deployment or that Azure AD tenant. And it allows you to sync all of the groups, users, and OUs over into our platform where they show up as collections, which is your groups, and then users. So with that, when they log in with a Windows login on the roaming client, we're actually looking at that federated login in Active Directory and then assigning that to their friendly name here in the dashboard, which means that, in keeping with the topology of your customers, AD, you can kind of go in and say, all right, great. Sales gets one policy, marketing gets another, maybe with a little more social media so they can go do what they need to do. You get the idea. I also mentioned the relays earlier. Again, this is a virtual appliance that runs in situations where you have the need for split horizon. If we get to a point where we need to discuss that, we can certainly go down that path. Again, reporting now is specific to this customer. You'll see that the user experience is the same. You have the same ability to look at what requests are happening, be able to drill through and understand what's been allowed, blocked, what's a threat, what's a request, etc. All that data is sliced and diced in different ways. So app-aware reporting specifically will show you trends in applications themselves, which applications are being used. If there's an application that you feel shouldn't be used, you have the ability to go right in here and be like, yeah, I don't want Richie on Facebook Messenger during the day. and you can go in here and you can block it on any of the different policies. Data Explorer gives you a little more flexibility in being able to drill down by user or by roaming client to understand trends and things of that nature. So here you can see that, 10.65% of the requests in this deployment are apple.com. Total requests, queries per second, all handy stuff. Top requests is, another way that we can slice and dice data. As you can see, these users have been very good, not been going to anything blocked. And then you can also look at, threats as well. And then really, from here, for more granularity and those records, you can drill right into the query log. And as I mentioned, there is a forthcoming SKU with Pax8 that will allow you to add our data export function, which allows you to pipe that directly out to an Amazon S3 bucket or Splunk or one of the compatible SIMs that also use an HTTP event collector. Lastly, I'll just touch on integrations here in the dashboard. So again, your SIM plugins are here. Your customers can actually utilize their own SSO if they have administrative or read-only or policy-only users that are assigned to their specific tenant. We utilize OpenID, and we can go about it that way. And then also through Zapier, which is a third-party application that does webhooks. There's a number of different ways that you can take data from DNSFilter and create actionable things within these assorted products. So yeah, with that is what you can expect if you come and sign up for a 14-day trial through our friends here at Pax8. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Elliot to talk about pricing, which means I got to actually share my screen again.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. That was very informative, and hopefully the team got a bit out of that. If you do have any questions on anything Kyle's covered so far, feel free to add them into the Q&A or into the chat. We will get into the Q&A in just a moment. But I thought while we wait for that, we will jump in and give you a little bit of information around billing and pricing and potential next steps as well. So while that's just loading up, so from a billing perspective, like everything we do at Pax8 is all monthly based, right? So there's no commitments or anything like that. It is usage based, built in arrears. So you will have the, like some of the other solutions we have that you might be procuring already. We take a snapshot once a month on basically active users or devices. As part of that, you'll see that on your next bill that comes through. You do get access to 10 NFR licenses part of your subscription, so you can use that internally for your own staff or demo purposes. And it is automatic tiering as well, and we'll show you what that looks like in a second. So that is based on quantity, and it'll automatically go down the more you obviously deploy. There is no proration, so you've got to be mindful when you do the deployment. Make sure that you're doing it at after the snapshot takes place rather than before, because if you do it one day before the snapshot, you're effectively paying a full month's worth for just 1 day's usage. And as Kyle mentioned, there is a 14-day trial available, and that's done at the partner level. So you get access to 14 days trial within that. Your clients do not have the ability to trial that. So anything you move forward with on the client side will be basically billed from day one. Next slide, please, Kyle. So from a pricing perspective, with most of the partners that are on, we've provided the AUD and NZD pricing for you. Starting with the AUD pricing at the top, again, that's per user pricing. RRP, so that's your recommended sell price, is $2.90 per user. And your cost starting at the first bundle, which is anywhere between 1 to 500 users, is at $1.93. And as you can see, as you go down or increase your deployments, it substantially gets cheaper. And I've only put the first 3 tiers in there just for relevancy. You will there are a few more tiers as you grow up. So if you more than that 5,000, have a chat to your CAM, your account manager, and they will inform you of what those costs are. But that will be available in your Paxate platform when launch comes around, which is expected to be in the next couple of weeks. So you should see that available within February. For NZD, same sort of system there. Obviously, due to the slight difference in exchange rates, that'll be a little bit different. But you can see your expected margin if you're selling at the recommended sell price or recommended retail prices there. Next one, Kyle. So if you are interested in DNSFilter, or if you're already currently using it and want to procure it through Paxate instead, get in touch with your channel account manager or your Paxate representative, whoever that may be. They will be able to provide you with additional information and potential next steps. As mentioned, our general availability is expected this month. It is currently expected in the next 2 weeks. So you will have more information closer to those dates, and we'll let you know as soon as that launches. But there are a multitude of resources available, use cases, data sheets, guides, and things like that through the DNSFilter website that's available to you now if you want to learn more about this. If you do want additional information, obviously you can set that up, and we will provide any resources from an SE capacity or anything from our side as needed if you want to sort of explore this a little bit further. If you are needing this ASAP and you can't wait to our general availability, get in touch with your CAM, because we can potentially get you into an early access program or our pilot program, and they can cover off some expectations around there and what you'll need to know about getting access to that pilot program. If you're with us today and you're not currently a partner, you can sign up easily. Jump on our website. There's no obligation. It's free to join. You'll get in touch with one of our Cloud General CGS BDRs, basically, that will go through the next steps for you, get you signed on, and put you in touch with your nominated account manager as needed. Next slide, Kyle. So questions. There are a few that have popped through, so we'll just have a quick look at them. So are costs inclusive tax? No, everything we do in Paxate is ex-GST. From a software perspective, that's not included, so you won't be charged GST as part of that. Is there any documentation in regards to competitive feature analysis against Cisco Umbrella? That's a great question. And yes, there are a number of case studies and things specifically for Cisco Umbrella. But while we've got the DNSFilter team on the call, I might jump out to Dom and Kyle and see if you want to cover a little bit of how that competes against Cisco Umbrella.
Sure, absolutely. So, Cisco Umbrella obviously has, taken over the Open DNS kind of, market share, and, they are the reason that DNSFilter exists, because again, our, CEO and co-founder was dissatisfied when, he as an Open DNS customer was kind of left high and dry by some, less than stellar support and ever increasing prices, which at the time of, when that all happened, it just seemed right to create something a little better, and that's where we are now. Comparing apples to apples, DNSFilter and Cisco Umbrella both have Anycast networks, which are very fast and very redundant, which means that reliability is key in all that. Now, the key differentiator there is that we're marginally faster globally. Where we really shine against Cisco is in the efficacy of our threat and content categorization. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're contextually aware of 800 million domains, and we're constantly updating that list. So, it's a combination. It's about a 60-40 split of our own AI, and then 40% is through third-party sources that we ingest and then run through that same AI engine. Now, when that AI engine analyzes a site, it's not just looking at the domain categorization and that other metadata. It's also taking a physical screenshot of every domain that it renders. And it goes through a number of different image heuristics that are analyzing logos, analyzing source code. All of these sort of pieces of context are then used to continually update that list. Whereas Cisco just relies on those third-party sources. And so as a result of this, and with all of the features that I showed you in the threat filtering and everything, we're finding threats on average 7 days faster than Cisco Umbrella, which means that we're quicker to identify those things that may cause harm to your customers and keep them out of there. And then, of course, our reporting, our dashboard, DNS is what we do all day, every day. Like Cisco, big multinational company, they want to actually sell you a bunch of secure web gateway and other things that your customers may not need. In fact, last summer, Cisco Umbrella sunsetted their MSP program in favor of getting people to buy into the larger ecosystem. And for the vast majority of your customers, they need a product like DNSFilter. They may not need a full secure web gateway or zero trust or all of the other things that Cisco wants to get into the business of selling you. So I think that from that standpoint, this is where you find the advantage with DNSFilter. Dom, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think from a support perspective, as well as, again, Cisco is a giant company. We're 140 people, and we simply just listen to partners a bit more. We have a completely public canny request page. So a lot of these feature sets are built from partners' requests where you can upvote, and I'll drop the link here. So number one, we listen to MSPs a bit better. We're a bit more tailored to your kind of business, your model. We understand what it's like to be out there dealing with dentists who drive a Porsche but won't spend $2 on EDR. But we definitely, I would say, excel in the support aspects. Whereas if you're 1,000 seats, you're 200 seats, you're 10 seats, Cisco may not care. I did get another question here from Dylan. Can we see a demo of the block page? And does CA, are you meaning certificate authority, client agent have to be installed on the client side? I can touch on that for a little bit, but essentially if you forward the IP address from a router to DNSFilter, then anyone going through that router would receive that block page. If you did deploy the roaming client, obviously that would have to be installed. Then that person would receive the block page. We are able to be deployed, as Carl said, on RDSs, VMs, but those are going to be IP-based policies. So do keep that in mind. And Carl, I don't know if you want to show a block page real quick again.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we can do that.
We could show a funny one, and just know that this is fully customizable. You could have GIFs. You could have fun with it. I remember my first piece of cybersecurity that I touched was in 7th grade, trying to go on break.com or like albino black sheep or some other website that I shouldn't be going on in primary school, and then getting that fancy blog page. So I'm not sure if there we go. This is a funny one. You could put your logo. You could be way more professional, but just know you could do what you like. You could preview them. You could edit them to your liking.
Yeah. These are actually my personal ones on my own account that I'm showing right now. So
these for your kids.
To Dom's point, I don't have kids.
Oh, sorry.
Yet, but so this is only for my own enjoyment, as Ralph Wiggum crying and turning the knob to red. I will say that when you install the agent, it comes with that certificate directly. For your network deployments, we do have it directly in the in here. So if you need to install this, into machines that are not, running the agent, you have that right here, and you have full instructions on getting that into your Mac OS, Windows, Linux machine.
Okay, perfect. I don't think there's any other. There is one more question from Norm. Can the installs be done via RMM?
Correct.
Unattended.
Yes. So we have silent. Yep. So silent install is the way that we do that. So when you go and you install this in RMM, the way that we've written that MSI on Windows, it just goes silently. Mac as well. So when you push that out, it just goes in and starts doing DNS through us. It's pretty slick.
Perfect. Okay, with that, we've only got a few minutes left, so I want to thank everyone for jumping on. Again, if you do have any further questions and need any additional information, feel free to reach out to your CAM, your account manager at Pax8, or your representative, and they will take you through the relevant next steps. Again, the intended launch day will be this month, in the next couple of weeks. One thing I forgot to mention, and it was shown during the demo. While DNSFilter does have the capability to do mobile devices today, particularly iOS and Android devices, it won't be available on launch on day one through Pax8, but will be following shortly after. So keep that in mind when you're looking at it, but it will be available sometime shortly after the launch. Thank you again, Dom.
The
Carl.
same is sorry.
The
same is true with our data export as well.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Sorry.
Thanks, Carl. Appreciate your time today, Dom. Your valuable insights, and great to be working with you again. For everyone who's joined the call, thank you for your time. The recording will be made available to you after the call. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you all. Have a great day and have a great weekend.
Thank you all.
Cheers.
Have a great day. Bye.